Our next guest is the only person, let's say that again, the only person ever to have served as both CIA director and the Secretary of State. During Mike Pompeo's 4 years in the Trump administration, he helped spearhead some of former President Trump's most ambitious foreign policy objectives. He's very proud about that. His new book is called Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Love. Secretary Pompeo, we're glad to say, joins us live and in color here in the studio. Good to see you, Mr. Secretary.
Great to see you, too. Yeah, great to be back with you.
You're in a good mood? You feeling good?
I'm in a fantastic mood. It's wonderful to be here.
I'm glad to talk to you, but I want to start with this because it's been such a heavy day, and it seems like we have more and more of these stories every single day. It breaks my heart. It makes me ill. We're talking, of course, about the mass shootings. There have been 38 mass shootings across the country so far in 2023, Mr. Secretary. That's more than the days that we've had at the beginning of the year. What do you think needs to be done? And I know it's not an easy answer, but it's just something that you can tell us before we move on to your book.
So I grappled with this when I was a member of Congress. These are tough problems. There's no easy answer. I think we're going to find that, some of these were in California, some of the toughest gun laws in the country. Guns were probably possessed illegally, although I think we don't know all the facts yet. I think some of this is cultural. That is, we need to make sure that the families are intact, that there are good mental health services available for people that are struggling. I wish there was a simple answer. I watch not only these mass shootings, but I watch in the inner cities of America being a tough place where there's kids getting killed every night. We need to be an America that understands that every life matters, and we need to make sure that we have support for our law enforcement so they can do their work well, and support for people who are challenged so that we don't end up with precisely what we've seen just these last couple days.
We say all the time, nobody wants to take guns from responsible gun owners. And the Second Amendment, back then, they were talking about muskets. The hardware that we see on the streets, we've got to figure out a way to do something, but we're not going to solve that here at this particular time. Let's talk about your book, because some people view this book as an opening argument for your declaration of presidency. What do you say to that? You've said you're considering it. How close are you to making it?
So as for that, Susan and I are thinking, praying, trying to figure out if this is the next place to go serve, but we haven't come to that conclusion. We'll do so.
But how close are you?
We'll figure this out in the next handful of months. But that's not why I wrote this book. The book was actually supposed to be out in August, but the author was tardy in getting the manuscript completed. I wanted to tell the story from my perspective for 4 years of the Trump administration and our effort to put the American people at the front of American foreign policy, how it matters to every American. When you talk about Taiwan or Moscow, it seems like a long ways away. But I wanted to share with the American people that it matters to every American that we get this right. And America's place in the world matters, and we should defend it vigorously.
Well, President Trump has already announced that he's going to run again. Is that having any impact on your decision?
None.
None. You don't feel disloyal taking him on if you decide to run against him?
Oh, goodness, no. When you run for president, you're making the case to the American people. So all the folks who decide to run on both sides of the aisle will be presenting themselves, their ideas. They'll make arguments. I hope they'll speak in language that is fundamentally decent and speaks to the higher calling of America and is an optimistic message. So no, it won't matter to the Pompeos who else decides to run. We'll make that decision based on whether we think this is our moment.
Well, Nikki Haley also says she's thinking about running, and she comes up in your book a couple of times. And in the book you say that she had reached out to, she had strongly hinted that maybe she had tried to replace Mike Pence as vice president. She denies that. She says that it's a claim, and I want to quote her, she calls lies and gossips that you wrote in your book that you were trying to sell. That when you wrote that you were told that she was trying to replace Mike Pence as vice president.
Yeah,
she says that's just you, liar, liar, pants on fire, that never happened. What do you say?
Chief Kelly told me it was true. I think Kellyanne Conway has confirmed that she thought it was true. But I didn't write about it for that reason.
Why did you write it?
I wrote that storyline because in the Trump administration, it was tough. The media was after us. They were trying to create a gap between you and the president every day. They were coming at all of us pretty hard. And so everyone was saying, get out, quit, run. Ambassador Haley didn't decide to stay. She decided to leave. When times were tough and there were incredibly dangerous places that America found itself, so many people on the team didn't stay. And, for me, every day was a privilege to serve. I was the Secretary of State for 1,000 days. I wasn't about to give up one single second of it to focus on anything but doing my duty to the country.
But it did seem to be a lot of fluid with the truth in the Trump administration. Would you agree with that?
I think politicians are prone to that too often. You might even find a time where you say, oh, Mike, I'm not sure you quite were clear. I try my best every day, and I did this as Secretary of State too. I tried my best every day to, well, I'm CI director, so we had to keep secrets.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I tried my best every day never to say anything that I did not know to be true. And if I couldn't speak about it, I just said, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that.
We understand the secrets. It's the outright lies that I think many people have problems with.
No leader should ever do that. No leader in church, in a faith institution, no leader at the PTA meeting or school board, and no leader in Washington, D.C.
In your book, you write very little about January 6th, but you did surprise me with this. When you said that January 6th, you described it as calling it a day that the left wanted to exploit for political advantage. Do you really feel that just yesterday people were convicted at January 6th?
Well,
this is conspiracy.
Yeah, if they committed crimes, they should be convicted. I've said this for 2.5 years now, however long it's been. If you committed crimes, if you broke into the Capitol and committed violence, you should be prosecuted.
I get that, but in the book, Mr. Secretary, you described it as a day that it was just exploited for Democrats.
It has been exploited. It's absolutely been exploited by the left. I believe that firmly. We've had bad days in America before. That night ended in glory. That night ended in the United States of America completing its constitutional process and confirming President Biden as the duly elected president of the United States. We should be proud of that, and we shouldn't use violence in a political way, whether that violence happens in the streets of Seattle or Minneapolis.
But the violence happened because the people that day that took over the Capitol believed that the election had been stolen.
Yes.
And many people believed that they were urged to go to the Capitol to protest the way they did because of Donald Trump. Do you believe the election was stolen?
No, I don't believe the election was stolen, Gayle. But I do think we have an enormous confidence gap with the American people. Secretary Clinton continues to talk about her election as having not been. We have two consecutive elections. And by the way, in 2000 we had the hanging chads. You'll remember that. We got to fix this. We've got to run election processes that are transparent so that people can have confidence.
But Donald Trump is still saying that. Have you told him maybe you should stop saying that?
I've spoken to the president. He knows exactly what I think about the election. He knows where we got it right, where I think we got it right, and where we got it wrong. And I've never talked about the election being stolen.
Can I talk to you about classified documents? Because now we have a sitting president and a former president.
Yes.
Have you looked in your own house? Are you worried about maybe they'll find classified documents in your place, in your gym, in your garage? And what do you think about this?
Well, I don't have a Corvette in there.
No.
And so I don't think they will. But I'd say three things about this. And I write about this in Never Give an Inch. I actually write about this. The book preceded these issues, both at Mar-a-Lago and in the president's homes. If you have classified documents, handle them correctly. And if you find that you have them in the wrong place, take responsibility, take accountability, and turn them back in.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.